I'm going to say hello to anyone that gets on. I'm going to be reading chapter 28 of The Yearling by Marjorie Kinnan Rawlings. And we are just about finished with this book. It has been a long journey. And so we are almost at the end of this book, and I am so grateful to those who have stuck around and hung in there to get to the end. We are 5 chapters after today. We will be 5 chapters from finishing. And this chapter and the next couple of chapters are going to be short. And the last chapter, of course, is going to be very long because we have to tie up all of the loose ends of the story. We have just survived the winter of 2021 here in Texas, where our roads, the entire state was under a state of emergency. And it's kind of normal for the northern parts of Texas to get snow and ice during the winter. But we have had snow all the way as south as Brownsville, which is near the middle part of Mexico. So, yeah, very interesting happenings. Okay. So it's been a couple of minutes here. I do want to say thank you to my patrons for hanging in there with me and being a support to this channel. If you are interested in supporting this channel, please see the description or the information in the description box below. Gratefully, I would appreciate you becoming a patron. What else did I want to say? Just thank you for hanging in there, everyone. And so I will begin now with chapter 28 of The Yearling. Chapter 28. The January weather was mild. Now and then the sun would set in a cold, red stillness. Quilts would be inadequate through the night, and morning would show a thin film of ice on the water buckets. Then, in a day or two, it would be so warm that Ma Baxter could sit on the porch in the sun in the afternoon and work at her mending and patching. And Jody could run through the woods without his wool jacket. The Baxter life had quieted along with the weather. The river folk were no doubt in a swivet, Penny said, over the burning of the Hutto house and the migration of the sharp-tongued mother never understood. The sailor son almost like a foreigner, and their own golden-headed twink. Belief must be general that the drunken foresters had set fire to the place on receipt of the word that Oliver had returned with the girl. But the river was a long way off, and news filtered slowly to Baxter's Island. Penny and Ma and Jody sat by the hearth fire evening after evening, reliving the night through which they had stood with the Huttos and watched the house char into embers, had waited with them, warmed by its heat, for the morning boat that nothing could dissuade Grandma from taking. To my notion, Penny said, if that stranger that come in to the doings had knowed it was Oliver's wife, and not just said it were a gal with him, not even Lim had bothered him, they'd have figured 'twas time to call quits once she was married. Wife or no wife, it's low-down varmints will burn down a house, figuring somebody's in it. Penny sighed and was forced to agree. The foresters must be doing their trading at Fort Gates. They never passed. They had not picked up their share of the bear meat on their return. Their avoidance of Penny made their guilt incontrovertible. His hard won peace lay shattered about him. A stone thrown at some distance and meant for someone else had struck him. He was bruised and troubled. Jody was concerned, but it was the anxiety he felt for her characters in a tale. Grandma and Oliver and Fluff and Twink had steamed away might steam. Oliver became one with the stories he had told of distant places. Now, in the stories, there were Grandma and Twink and Fluff. Oliver had said, "I'll not forget you, not even in the China Sea." And it was in the China Sea, for the most part, that he pictured him, infinitely remote and abused by people as fictitious as he. The end of January brought continued warmth. There would be frost, even perhaps a freeze again, before spring truly came. But the balmy days were a harbinger. Penny plowed the fields that would have early crops. He turned the new ground that Buck had cleared for him during his illness from the rattler striking. He had decided to try a little cotton for a money crop. The low ground near the north hammock would go into tobacco. He prepared his seed beds between the house and the grape arbor. With the stock reduced to old Caesar and Trixie, he decided to plant cowpeas more sparingly and to put the extra land in corn. There seemed never to be enough. The chickens went short of feed, the hogs were not properly fattened, and the Baxters themselves gave out a meal at the end of summer, all for lack of enough corn. Nothing on the clearing was more important. Jody helped him carry the winter's compost from the lot and scatter it over the sandy acres. He planned to have the ground in good condition, bedded up and ready to plant in early March by the time the first whippoorwill should call. Ma Baxter complained bitterly that she had always wanted a gingerbread. Everyone else had one. The storekeeper's wife at the river had promised her roots any time she was ready for them. Penny and Jody prepared the bed. They dug down 4 deep at the side of the house and laid down cypress slats. They hauled clay from the southwest and filled it in. The first time he went trading to the river, Penny promised to bring back the roots, knobby and peaked, like antlers. The hunting was poor. The bears were feeding over a wide range, preparing themselves to go in February into hibernation. Their dens were under upturned hurricane stumps or where 2 large logs lay crossed, affording protection. Sometimes they dragged in oak and palmetto limbs and piled them up in a hollow tree to make a rough nest. Wherever the bed, it was hollowed out in a trench, over the edge of which a bear would rest his forequarters. Jody thought that it was strange that they did not go into their winter beds in December, when the first really cold weather came, and then come out earlier, in March, instead of April. "I reckon they know their own business," Penny said. The deer were distressingly scarce, both because of the plague and the increased voracity of the remaining killers. The bucks were in poor condition, the meat lean, their coats moss gray and shabby. They wandered usually alone. The does traveled alone or in pairs. An old doe traveled with a maiden doe, or with her male yearling. Pretty heavy with fawn. The principal work, once the land was turned, was hauling in wood and chopping and splitting it for both fireplaces. Wood, at least, was more easily gotten than ever before, for the storm had brought down large numbers of trees, and the weakening of their roots from the long days of rain and steady wind had toppled still more. Timber had died by the acre in the low places. The effect was as though fire, not flood, had passed through such sections, for the dead trees stood gray and naked. Penny said, "Now I'm proud I live in a high place. It fret me having to look at all that bleakness." Jody loved the morning jaunts for wood as well as a hunt. They were leisurely. Penny would hitch old Caesar to the wagon on a cool, sparkling morning after breakfast, and they would jog one way or another along the road as their fancy took them. The dogs would trot under the wagon, and Flag would gallop ahead or to the side. He looked peculiarly wise in his buckskin collar. They would turn off into a clear place in the woods and prowl on foot for a suitable fallen tree, water oak or yellow pine by preference. There was abundant fat pine. This made the hottest and brightest hearth fire and made kindling. Oh, and made fine kindling. But it smoked and smuttied the pots and kettles. They would take turns chopping or use the crosscut saw together. Jody liked the rhythmic swing of the saw, the singing hum as it ate into the wood, the sweet smell of the sawdust sifting to the ground. The dogs nosed nearby in the bushes or ran rabbits. Flag nibbled at the leaf buds or found a succulent sprig of grass that had escaped the frost. Penny always carried a shotgun. Sometimes Julia ran a rabbit within range, or a fox squirrel whisked injudiciously up a nearby pine, and there was plow for supper. One day a pure white fox, uh, One day a pure white fox squirrel peered boldly at them, and Penny would not shoot. It was a curiosity, he said, like the albino coon. The meat of old Slewfoot had been coarse and stringy with age, and it took long cooking to tender it. The Baxters had been glad when the last of it was gone. Most of it had been smoked for the dogs, and while it would have been edible in necessity, no one was ever tempted to ask for it. His fat, however, tried out, filled a large wooden bucket. It was as clear and golden as early honey and was fine for all cooking. The cracklings were as flavory as those from a prime hog. There was a double satisfaction whenever any of the Baxters snapped them between their teeth. Ma Baxter spent long hours at her quilting. Penny held Jody to his lessons. The evenings were spent by the hearth fire, blazing brightly to supply light as well as heat. The wind howled cozily around the house. On still nights of moonlight, the foxes could be heard barking in the hammock. Then the lesson stopped, and Penny nodded to Jody, and they listened together. The foxes seldom came to raid the Baxter hen roost. "They no ever had Julia's head," Penny chuckled. "They ain't attempted Providence." One cold, bright night at the end of January, Ma Baxter, Penny and Ma Baxter had gone to bed, while Jody lingered with Flag by the fire. He heard a sound outside in the yard, as though the dogs were scuffling. The commotion was livelier than the pair usually made. He went to the front window and pressed his face to the cold pane. A strange dog was romping with Rip in play. Julia watched tolerantly. He caught his breath. It was not a dog. It was a gray wolf, lean and lame. He turned to run and call his father, then, irresistibly drawn, went back to watch again. The wolf and dog had plainly played together before. They were not strangers. They played silently, as though the dogs kept the secret. Jody went to the door of the bedroom and called softly. Penny came. What's the matter, son? Jody tiptoed to the window, beckoning. Penny followed on bare feet and looked out where Jody pointed. He whistled under his breath. He made no move for his gun. They watched silently. In the bright moonlight, the motions of the animals were plain. The visitor was crippled in one hip. Its movements were clumsy. Penny whispered, "Some way pitiful, ain't it? Reckon it's one of them we rounded up that day at the ponds?" Penny nodded. "It's almost certain the last one. Poor thing. Hurt and lonesome. Come visiting, it's nice kin to pick a play." Perhaps the sibilance of their whispers reached beyond the closed window, or their scent drifted to the wolf's nose. Soundlessly it turned and left the dogs, and clambered with difficulty over the fence, and it was gone into the night. Jody asked, "Will it do harm here?" Penny stretched out his feet to the embers on the hearth. "I misdoubt it's in shape to catch itself a square meal. I'd not dream of bothering it. A bear'll finish it, or panther. Leave it live out the rest of its life." They squatted together by the hearth, caught up in the sadness and the strangeness. It was a harsh thing, even for a wolf, to be so alone that it must turn to the yard of its enemy for companionship. Jody laid an arm across Flag. He wished Flag could understand that he had been spared desolation in the forest. As for himself, Flag had eased a loneliness that had harassed him in the very heart of his family. He saw the lone wolf once again in the waning moon. It never came again. By tacit consent, its visits were not revealed to Ma Baxter. She would have demanded its death, whether or no. Penny believed that the dogs had made its acquaintance on one of their hunts, or perhaps when they were cutting wood, and the dogs had wandered away on their own business. And that is the end of chapter 28. Well, hello, everyone. Oh, my word. All right, who am I talking to? Anella? Hi. Oh, thank you, Anella. I like my glasses too. They're not very good sometimes, but. Hello, Elizabeth. And Anna. Hello, Anna. Thank you, Attitude Cool. I liked The Bronze Bow. It was a good book. I ate my neighbor's dogs. Don't be afraid, okay? Anella, have you been following the Yearling? Attitude Cool. I'm glad you're here today. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Oh, thank you. I love to read. I like to get into the story. It kind of takes me away. It's like I have my own movie in my mind. So, can I ask where everyone's from? Oh, Anna, is your class reading the Yearling? I have considered reading the Watsons going to Birmingham. Go to Birmingham. Um, Hi, Taraji. So, what state are you guys in? I'm in Texas, and we've had horrible, horrible weather this last week. Matter of fact, today is the first day that my computer's been able to work. South Carolina, how's your weather? Is it cold? I'm sure it's snowy, right? Are all three of you, Anella, Elizabeth, and Anna, are you all in the same class at school? Cool. Hello, Elizabeth. Oh, your weather's really bad. Okay. Yeah. I think the weather all across the nation is really bad. Rainy. Oh, we I'm in South Texas. So it doesn't usually snow here. And we had snow that's still on the ground. That's just like weird here. Just very strange. So are you junior high or middle school, high school? What age are you guys? What class what grades are you in? Middle school. Okay. 5th or 6th grade? Oh, Taraji's in high school. 11th and 12th. 6th. Okay. This is a great book. This is a wonderful book. Well, Attitude Cool, it's nice to meet you and thank you. The next book I'm going to read after The Yearling is Holes. So if you guys have ever read Holes or you've seen the movie, it's coming. How does the book taste? There's my cat. This is Oliver. Bye, Attitude Cool. Oliver, I'm talking to the kiddos. Oliver, there he is. He a big boy. His name is Oliver because he always asks for more food. Like Oliver in the movie Oliver. More, please. All right, you guys, I got to go. But I pray that you have a blessed rest of the week and a wonderful weekend. And until next time, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May he make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and grant you his peace. Bye, everybody. Bye, Anella. Bye, Elizabeth. Bye, Anna. Bye, Taraji. Attitude Cool. I'll see you later.